Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We continue with our exposition on Surah Al-Fatiha, and in the last video we discussed the verse Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, guide us the straight path, and we did espouse the meaning of the words and an overall view of what is meant by the straight path. Today, in this video, we continue with the last verse of the surah, verse number 7, which goes on to further define the straight path in terms of who are those who are blessed to be on the path, and those who are not so blessed and are not on the path, so that we know whom to follow and in whose footsteps we follow in order to be on the Sirat al-Mustaqim, or the straight path. And the verse, as we all know, reads, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, the path of those whom you have bestowed your favor upon them. You bestowed your blessing, your favor, your acceptance upon them. Not the path or the ways of those who have anger upon them, that is from God, and not those who are astray. In this video we shall consider the first part, that is those who are on the path, those whom footsteps we should follow and whom we should aspire to be among them, so that we are on that straight path that leads to God and salvation. So Allah says, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. He commands us to say that this is the path of those whom you, addressing God, you have bestowed your favor upon them. Who are they? Who are those who have been bestowed upon them God's favor? As we said before, the Quran explains itself. It's its own best tafsir. So we have another verse in Surah An-Nisa which defines in some details who are those who have the favor of God bestowed upon them. And the verse says, وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولِ, whoever obeys God and the Messenger, فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ, such will be among those whom God has bestowed His favor upon them. And He mentions 4 categories. He says, مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. So, it means the 4 categories are النبيين, the prophets, والصديقين, the adherence to the truth. We shall define that further. والشهداء, the witnesses. والصالحين, and the righteous. So, let us take each one. These are the 4 categories in this verse, which God says that these are the ones whom God has bestowed His favor upon them. Let us start with the first group. Now, God is mentioning them in order of prestige, in order of nearness to God, in order of the highest level, then the next higher, then the next level, and so on. So the highest level is in Nabiyyin, the prophets, the messengers, who have received God's revelation and were given the duty to pass it on to mankind. As the Quran says, God has sent the messengers throughout history, مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنْذِرِينَ, as bringers of good news to those who obey God, and as warners to those who disobey. وَأَنزَلَ مَعَهُمُ الْكِتَابِ, and revealed with them the scriptures. And the Quran further defines them as they are those who ask for no reward. They are not after any worldly rewards. وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ, and they are already guided by God. Therefore, they have received the guidance from God directly by revelation. And therefore, this verse, in a way, summarizes the stories of the prophets in the Quran. Because when the Quran gives us stories of the prophets, is not giving it in terms just for history or story. It is rather to learn from what they say, learn from their lives, learn from their ways. As the Quran says, لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةٌ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Verily, in their stories are lessons to learn for those people who have real wise hearts or wise minds. Therefore, the straight path is the way of the prophets, the way which the prophets, all the prophets of God, up to the last of them, Muhammad والسلام, called mankind to. And that is the path we should follow. So by following the prophets, we are on the straight path. Now, the followers of the prophets, which is us, who are trying to follow them, the Quran puts them into three categories. One, he says, as-siddiqeen. What's the meaning of the word siddiqeen? Siddiqeen comes from the word sidq. Sidq means truth. And siddiqeen, which is the plural of sadiq or siddiq, is one who adheres very tightly and very strongly and unequivocally to the truth as revealed by God. Either in terms of accepting it and believing it, or speaking it out. And here is referring merely to the acceptance, that is the ultimate unequivocal strong acceptance of the truth, that it becomes part and parcel of the believer's being. It means he's talking about the highest level of iman, the highest level of faith, as the Quran further defines them and says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصِّدِّيقُونَ. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرُسُلِهِ. And those who believed in God and His messengers, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الصِّدِّيقُونَ. Those who really believe in God and what His messengers came with, such are really the Siddiqun. That is, they are the ones who are really strong and strong adherents to the truth. They believe is unequivocal, unquestioning. They have reached to the level of wisdom and belief that they no longer question what God says. They just obey because of the firm conviction of the truth of what is being said. And they act according to what they believe. It's not just a question of belief in the heart. It is manifested in their works. In the Quran, for example, we see the mother of Isa, Jesus, Maryam, or Mary. The Quran calls her Siddiqa, wa ummuhu Siddiqa, and his mother was a Siddiq, that is a unequivocal adherent to the truth, adherent to what God has revealed, not doubting it. She was told that she's going to have a son without the agency of a man, and even though it cannot happen in natural life, she believed it and didn't have doubts about it, and she lived and she bore with it. So as the Quran says, explaining further why she is a Siddiqa, he said, صَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. She believed in the words of her Lord, and she was among those who were humble to Him. Therefore, this is the highest category of believers who believe in what the prophets have revealed to mankind, that they believe unequivocally. Their conviction is near perfect. Their actions and their faith becomes part and parcel of them. Then he mentions Ash-Shuhada. Ash-Shuhada literally means witnesses. Shaheed. Shaheed means a witness. Shahid or Shaheed. And witnessing here, it means that they are witnesses of God's faith, God's religion, by their actions and by their words, which come from their hearts. Now you say, what's the difference between them and the Siddiqeen? They are, as we said, we are coming a bit, it comes in descending order, which means every Siddiq is a Shaheed in that he bears witness by his actions and deeds. But maybe there are people who are also doing that, but they don't have the same category or level of unequivocal acceptance and belief as the Siddiq. Therefore, we are getting wider now. Not every Shaheed is a Siddiq, but every Siddiq is a Shaheed, and so on. As the Quran says that God made us the nation of Islam لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ, so that you become witnesses for the people, for all mankind. We have been given the revelation. Every true believer in Islam should regard himself and aspire to be a witness. Witness in what sense? In that if you are good, you help the poor, you say the truth all the time, your actions bear witness to what is moving you. When people who are outside the faith, who are either who will look at you and say, this person is such a good person, what is making him so good, what is making him always truthful, what is making him so kind, what's making him so helpful, and when they realize that it is that faith, that iman, that is driving him, he in that sense is a witness to that faith, witness for God on his religion. Just like those who are outside the faith, by their actions, if somebody who is doesn't do good things, or he worships idols, as the Quran says about those who disbelieve at the time of the Prophet, إنهم شاهدون على أنفسهم بالكفر. شهداء على أنفسهم بالكفر. They bear witness against themselves by their disbelief. What are they bearing witness to? What are they witnessing to? What are they showing? They're showing disbelief. So the same thing here, as shuhada are those who, by their actions, by their deeds, they are witnesses to God. And sometimes, and that's why, as time went on, it became people started specifying it to people who die in the cause of God. Like, for example, people who, as a result of their faith, either because of defending their faith or because of their faith they got killed, for example, either in a battle to defend their faith or out of battle, they become shuhada or shaheed, because by their action that they were willing to even to sacrifice their lives rather than go against or run away from defending God's faith, or preferring to die rather than abandon their faith, they become witnesses, shuhada, and otherwise martyrs. But the word shuhada here does not just mean that category. It means every action, every people who bear witness to the religion of God, Islam, by their actions, which includes also dying for the cause, and that in their defense, or because of they were oppressed and they prefer to die rather than to abandon their faith. That's also called shuhada. So a shaheed here, a shuhada, are those who bear witness by their actions and by their deeds, and in that way actually spread the words of God, spread the religion of God by making people, attracting more to faith and saving more of mankind to come out of the ways of darkness to the straight path. And finally, he said, was-salihun, and those who are righteous in general, even if they have not reached to the category of the siddiqeen or shuhada, but they are righteous, they do good deeds, they are people who do not do evil, ordinary people who do good deeds, and their good deeds is more than their evil. So overall they are good, and that's why the Quran does not categorize that salvation as an all or none thing, meaning you don't have to be 100% perfect for God to have favor of God upon you. God understands that not everybody will be of the same footing, not the same level of iman. So He accepts up to a particular degree. Of course, there's a red line. Once you get below it, then that's it. You're out of the category. But that doesn't mean you have to score 100% or be equal to the prophets to be saved on the last day, or to be on the straight path. That is the greatness of Islam, in that there is a sort of a range which God accepts, and the more you are in the middle of the path, which is strict on the path, away from either way, either edge, then the more you are, the higher your faith. And that's what the Quran always talks about, sawa as-sirat. That is, those who follow the middle of the path. Middle of the path, it is the furthest away from the edges. Even though if you are close to the edge of the path, there's a danger of you going out of it, but you are still on the path. Therefore, the more you go towards the middle, which is sawa as-sirat, the higher you become, the higher in the sight of God. And that's why the Quran, in that verse explaining now is explaining who are those whom we should aspire, who are those whom God has put his favor upon them. He mentioned Salihin, the righteous, and therefore we should aspire to be by not just by righteous in ourselves, but we should put that righteousness as a witness, and people should see that righteousness and act as a sort of gathering people into the path of Islam, and to become shuhada, that is witnessing to that truth by our sacrifices, even willing to die for it. And only God knows then how many of those will now reach to the level of as-siddiqeen, those who believe in everything unequivocally, reach to the highest level of belief in the prophets. And of course, finally the prophets, but this is a category you cannot aspire to become. It's not something you can become, no, because this is something given by God to particular people. And the last of them was Muhammad, as we all know. And the Quran, in the verse, ends the definition of that category by saying, وَحَسَنَ أُولَئِكَ رَفِيقًا. What a beautiful fellowship and company is to be among. And the key is in the beginning of the verse, مَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولِ. Whoever obeys God and the messenger. The more we obey, the more we stick to what is being said, the more we avoid that which he forbade in our life, in our heart, then we are now in the category of those who God has bestowed his favor upon them. And depending on how much we strive and get higher in the ladder of faith, we can proceed from just salihun to shuhada, and may God grant us to be among as-siddiqeen.